Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Y'all know I would usually say it's a beautiful day, but it's a rainy, cold day in South Florida, but it's still a good day to be alive. We are three people in three different locations. Uh, Reverend Maria, let's pray for her. She is under the weather, and she was supposed to preach at the Mount Tabor Baptist Church today. And so she told me about 3 in this morning. I don't think I'm going to be able to go. And so I was a sacrificial lamb that was slain on the altar at the Mount Tabor Baptist Church today as I tried to preach for their 121st church anniversary. And I preached a sermon called What Does It Mean to Be Black and Christian? Black History Month. So, but today, y'all, we are excited because we are still, and Ashley and Red Maria are sharing it on their social media pages. I'm going to start sharing it. I'm going to pass it on. I'm excited today that we're still in this mental health series, still sharing how to deal with depression part 2. Again, I would encourage you, if you have not downloaded our app, to do so. And the sermon notes are there from last week as well as this week, and then all sermon notes. And so I just want to say good morning. I want to thank Sister Ashley, who is a major player doing big things popping in the ATL Himalayas. I even turned her on to some clients up there. And they good paying clients too. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Every week. And so we are excited about her being here with us. As you know, every week we're going to have a therapist share. She is a licensed therapist in the state of Georgia. Has a powerful story. I've been blessed that she kindly consented to go with us 2 years ago to Belize to do a mission trip. And she had a great time. And we were just blessed to be with her. Her and her sister, just great peoples. They know that they just know when the pastor need a bit of encouragement, they'll just send the pastor some encouragement. And so I'm grateful for them. Their parents raised 2 phenomenal sisters who just happen to be members of Delta Sigma Theta, like their grandmother who's gone home to be with the Lord. And I'm at their grandmama's church today, preaching for a little while. I've already preached, and I'm soon as we finish sermon chat, I'm out of here. To go be Dr. Feel Good and get whatever Reverend Marie needs before she come back. And so good morning, everybody. I just talked enough for enough people to come in on Facebook, on YouTube. This is Sermon Chat. We take your questions on the sermon or just faith matters in general. I'm throwing it to you, Red Maria, as I share this feed on social media.
Good morning, everybody. And come on in. You know, I like for us to give our shout outs when you're on your way in. I see you, my sisters. Come on through, my brothers. And thank you for the well wishes, and thank you for praying for me. And I want to thank publicly Pastor White for allowing himself to go on and say a word for the Lord on my behalf. One of my nightmares is that someone will ask me to preach and I'll forget. I didn't forget, but I was not able to go. So it's a blessing to have a partner in ministry who can go and stand in the gap. So I thank God for that. So here we are again at Sermon Chat, and I'm just grateful. I'm going to stop talking. I hope that you all will send your questions, excuse me, so we can get this lively discussion going. And somebody ought to say amen and send the first question.
All right, so we have, since Reverend Maria is correcting me, she wants me to give Ashley's government name, Altrinisha Ashley Irving. But all I've known her, she said, call me Ashley. So, but I'm going to do what I'm told.
Can we, your professional name, the name you go by professionally, so that you don't have folk rolling up in your office talking about Counselor Ashley, girl. In a professional realm right now, Pastor White.
All right, so I will yield. Altrinisha. We just gonna call her Sister Irving. No, I'm just playing. So we want to take your questions, Ashley, we can let you introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and then we'll get questions going.
Yeah, so you all gave me a wonderful introduction. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for having me today, too. I'm Altrinisha Ashley in my personal life. My friends and family call me Ashley, hence at church, people call me Ashley. But at work, it is Altrinisha. Most people don't reference me as anything. They're just talking about themselves, so it doesn't really matter anyway.
Amen.
So whatever they call me is fine. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. So in my day-to-day at work, I see a lot of couples, I see a lot of families, but mostly, surprisingly, I see a lot of individuals. So some teenagers, a lot of adults in different phases of life that are having challenges with like anxiety, depression, sometimes big transitions are happening, and just trying to help them to feel better and lighten up the mood and ease their transition through some things. And we work. Some sessions are easy, some sessions are hard, but we work, and in the end, they get the growth that's desired. So
Now you still got 4 or 5 jobs because we know you got a Jamaican thing. How many jobs
I
you
do
got?
not listen. Since I've opened up my private practice last summer, I have not been able to maintain 50,000 jobs. I have one job, and
Praise Yahweh.
Praise
listen.
God for private practice.
Yes, won't he do it? So it's amazing.
Amen.
I'm happy I'm not running from this place to that place and doing all the things. I have one job.
All
I
right,
have
so go
oh,
ahead, Reverend.
I had a question because
Yeah.
you talked about your work with couples, and I'm just wondering, following in this series of sermons that pastors preaching about depression,
Mhm.
what can you speak to depressions in couples and how couples might recognize it in one another or how to navigate that a little bit? Okay,
Yeah.
mama.
So honestly, it looks the same whether you're in a relationship or whether you're single. The signs and the symptoms are the same. Now, what I do with my, and I'll give you some examples of what that look like. What I do notice though, is that it impacts the family in a different way, right? So if you come as an individual, it's just I noticed this in me and in myself, or maybe a family member noticed this in me. But when it comes to the couple setting, usually the partner is complaining about something. He or she is not as involved as they used to be, or she doesn't, assist with the kids as much, or they're mean or angry, right? So that's kind of what we see. And in the Black community, what we see as regular, the DSM or the medical world see as like signs of depression. I'll give you an example. Irritability and agitation. Oh, that's just how she is. She cuss everybody out, or they fuss at
My
this.
Lord, listen. My Lord, listen. So black
And
people in
it's
a
like,
perpetual state of depression. Then black people in a perpetual state of depression.
listen, just angry and mad and bitter for, I won't say for no reason, for various reasons that we are in denial about, right? We don't realize it as such. It might be a change in appetite. So and so gained all this weight, or so and so lost all this weight. And we just like, oh, what they got going on? And usually we respond from a place of judgment as opposed to, I wonder what's happening with them. Right. Same thing, changes in sleep, changes with their ADLs, which are activities of daily living. So if somebody's not showering as much or not cooking, not just up and moving about doing the things, caring for themselves, their hair, right, being done or not, those are some classic signs that something's happening with somebody. Even being tired and saying, I don't have energy. And Pastor spoke about this during the sermon. I'm tired, right? Or I can't keep dealing with this, right? That is fatigue. A lot of times emotional fatigue, and we don't really see it as signs of depression, but it is. Lack of interest in activities. Oh my gosh, this person used to work out 3-4 times a week, and now it's been months and they haven't done anything. What's happening with them? And so the benefit of like couples therapy is usually someone's in a home and they see firsthand what's happening with the other person. And so they get to share that perspective, which helps me to say, all right, so this is what's happening. And sometimes it's appropriate to refer the individual to individual therapy, to another therapist, or sometimes I would just do some individual sessions with them. It depends on the comfort level of the couple. Some people like, oh, you might be biased after, seeing them individually. So we will refer out. It just depends on what's happening. But generally, that's kind of what happens with couples counseling.
All right. For those who are just joining us, this is Sermon Chat where we are taking your questions. The sermon is How to Deal with Depression Part 2. And do you have any pre-log questions, Reverend Maria? Please, if you don't feel that your
There's a
question,
question.
you want to take your questions, drop them in the chat. If not, then
There's a
email
question
us.
in the chat, and I did
And
see one from the last time we spoke that didn't get asked. But
okay,
but
so let's
take
deal
what
with the
we have in
question from the
chat.
last time we spoke first, Reverend, and then we'll come to the one that's in the chat.
Okay. Let's
No,
go.
let's deal with the question from the last time we spoke, and then we'll come back to that question.
The question last time was, is there a difference between, or what is the difference between depression and bipolar?
A lot. Bipolar disorder is under the realm of depressive diagnosis. So typically though with bipolar we see mood changes as well. So that's going to be the biggest difference. I do want to clarify though, a lot of times we see we want to lump bipolar disorder, schizophrenia into one category, and it's not the same thing. You can have one and not the other. And people don't just wake up today and get a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. It is logged over months to make sure that they have some of those characteristics that are seen in one and not the other. And typically they will start off with a major depressive disorder diagnosis. Okay. It is when the depression is really extensive and they're having changes in moods as well. So you can have bipolar disorder and also have like depressive episodes where you are out of touch with people and you just want to be by yourself.
So we shouldn't be listening to that neighborhood diagnosis. Girl, you know she must have bipolar.
Social media diagnosis too now.
Yes, and right now it's really big on TikTok too. So everybody want to come in and talk about the video that they saw on TikTok, and now they have diagnosed themselves with some things. It is not that easy to just come up with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, and because it's so heavy, unless you have a previous diagnosis of bipolar disorder, you're not walking into anybody's office and getting that diagnosis immediately. It's rare that happens.
All right, we got some questions rolling in. Praise Yahweh. All right, first question. Can toxic environments cause depression?
Absolutely. Most of the people who we experience with depression, it's because something's happening in their home environment. A lot of times it's from their upbringing, right? Parents talking down to them, speaking negatively to them, experiencing physical and emotional abuse, right? All of these things can be considered toxic. Even people being sexually abused, these things can cause you to be depressed because it makes you sad, it makes you frustrated, it makes you irritable. And so you're likely to be in isolation by yourself, trying to deal with the stuff because you don't have another outlet, especially in the Black community. We're not teaching children as they're growing up what to do with their emotions. A lot of times we're dismissing them and telling them, brush it off, keep it moving, you'll be all right. Oh, shut up.
Shake it off, shake it off, you'll be all right. Shake it off, shake it off, you'll be all right. Shake it off.
And so we don't give them the tools or the permission they need to address the feelings, let alone how to handle them. Right. So we got to start with being okay with calling the thing the thing. So if it's you're sad, you're mad, you're hurt, say that. And then let's talk about what to do with it when these emotions come up. But absolutely, toxic environments can cause depression. Even workplace environments that are toxic can cause depression. So you got to be mindful of where you are and what you're doing.
All right. We've got another question here. When do you make the decision that a couple should have individual therapy before marriage or counseling, even though the couple came for couple counseling?
Typically, whenever those things start to show up. So in the intake, when I see couples for the first time, I ask questions about them individually, and then we move into the couples work. So tell me about your upbringing. Tell me about your home life currently. Tell me about your work. Do you like your work? How stressful is your work, right? So I ask those questions for each partner, and then I ask about them as a collective. people usually reveal, yes, I previously had therapy when I was a teenager because I had suicidal thoughts, right? Or I've never been engaged, or my home life was a disaster. I lived in 10 different houses in 6 years, or my mom was never able to care for me. And so when I start to hear those things, my antennas go up. And so if they still continue to struggle with, I have sadness from my mom passing away when I was in 5th grade, right? I'll do a scaling question, ask, how much does this impact you today on a scale of 1 to 10? If they're like, I'm at a 7, I'm at an 8. All right, we are going to refer you to get some individual counseling to help you with this particular thing. Because if this is causing you to be sad, which is also causing you to be disconnected from your family at home, then you need to work on this as an individual. And then in the couples work, we'll talk about what you need from your partner to help you through the sadness, right? Or communicating with your partner, hey, I'm having a day today and I need time apart, instead of just coming home and going in a room and being separated from everybody. Communicating that with each other is really big. So I usually determine it at the intake, but sometimes things don't come up until later on in our work together. We might be on session 4 or 5 and they reveal this traumatic incident that they experienced when they were 4 years old. So it really just depends.
I have a question for you. We all know that sometimes we are very hesitant in our community to seek help. To seek help. So my question is, since you're in our community, but you're also a professional in this sector, how can you help us understand that, number one, how to find somebody, number two, that our business won't be in the street because we went to somebody?
Well, the part about the business being in the street, it's illegal for us to tell our clients' business without their permission, right? And if we do, usually it's in a clinical setting with another mental health professional who are helping you to discuss the case and come up with ways to make sure you're providing the best treatment for your client. But there are laws in place, HIPAA primarily, that says we cannot disclose our clients' information. Okay. And so if you notice, even in talking with you, I can share my experiences with my clients without disclosing their names and, certain situations, so specifically that who he or she is. In terms of getting help, there has been a lot of resources that's come about in the past couple of years. For Black and Brown people, my favorite 2 resources are Therapy for Black Girls and Therapy for Black Men. So if you Google Therapy for Black Girls or Therapy for Black Men, they are listings where Black clinicians can sign up and say, hey, I'm willing and able to work with people of color, and I am sensitive to your needs, and I'll make sure I have a space where you can show up and be your authentic self. And so wherever you are in these United States, if you go on those websites, you can find a clinician in your state that's able to help you with whatever circumstances that are presenting in your life.
What about, I know we have some folks in Canada who worship with us, and then some folks even overseas in Caribbean and in Africa. Are there similar type of groups in other places outside of these still yet the United States?
I would imagine so, Pastor, but I don't know specifically like where to send them for that. On the individual's websites, they'll oftentimes have like where they're licensed to practice. So you may have to like reach out to somebody to see if they know someone. If you have anybody that are in those areas and they need someone, let me know, because the laws vary by country. So one of my therapist friends moved to England and she can practice whatever, and she doesn't need a license there, even though she's licensed here. So she may be seeing people in other countries. I don't know, but I would ask.
That's an interesting question. Now that everything is virtual, how much attention should we be paying to the license?
A lot. Technically, I am licensed in Georgia, right? And so as a Georgia clinician, unless I have my license in Florida, I cannot also practice in Florida. So they are working on an interstate compound to make sure that we can work across state lines to reduce some of the legalities. But clients travel. They don't tell us that, oh, I'm in California. right? So I would think that they're still in Georgia, and I would not have the knowledge that they're in another place. But technically, it's illegal to have sessions with your clients in a state that you're not licensed in. So where you reside is where you want to look for a clinician.
All
Excellent.
right, y'all. YouTube, y'all been mighty quiet today. Y'all have not dropped any questions. I haven't seen any questions come to the studio. I'm in a mobile studio today. Red Maria's in a home studio, but I'm in a mobile studio today. And so we've got a few more moments to take your questions on the sermon or just faith matters in general or depression, as that's pretty much what we've been talking about. I just found that I was drawn to this text, Sister Irving, since Reverend Maria wanted me to use your government name, Sister Irving, and because to me, we don't talk about depression in the church enough. We think it's taboo. I mean, we don't talk about it in the Black community, but we sure enough ain't talking about it in church. And that disciples, saints can be depressed and still function at a high level. And so, yeah, to me, so I'm hoping that people are being blessed by these chats as well as the sermon and the sermon notes. And hopefully they're getting, as the old folks say, they whole self together. They whole selves.
I have another question, if you don't mind. Is that all right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so my question is, since we got this pandemic going on and on and on, can you talk a little bit about how people may not recognize the impact of the pandemic on them? I mean, sometimes you were saying earlier that we can be in stuff for so long we don't even recognize it. Can you? Are there pandemic specific things that we should be looking for?
Yes. The biggest one with since the pandemic is anxiety. A lot of people have been concerned, am I going to die? Will I die alone? What about my family members' health? There's been a lot of worry around people's health, and a lot of worry around life in general. Right? Will today be the day? Is this the end of the world? We've seen all the movies. We've seen, all the TV shows that shows the world ending due to disease spread, right? And so is this going to be that time too? A lot of anxiety and panic around that specifically. The other part though is depression and isolation and loneliness. People die earlier due to loneliness. A lot of people live by themselves. A lot of people migrate to different areas and they don't have the same sense of community that they had with their families. And so, number one reason that people have been coming, loneliness, isolation, sadness, and they don't even realize, oh my gosh, going to dinner with my friends once a week brought me so much joy. Being able to have communication with humans made me feel good. And I didn't realize how big of a deal going to an office space and saying hi to my coworkers and getting coffee in the morning would impact me, right? So those are the small things that people didn't really notice that stood out for me. I have clients, I've been the only other human that they've had contact with in an intimate setting since the pandemic. And it's almost 2 years, right? And so it's a big deal for people.
Can you talk about, Sister Irvin, about your work with children and teenagers, or, just children in general, and how they've been navigating the pandemic and signs that you can see that parents may want to address?
Yeah. The other with kids, mostly I do adolescents. My office hours don't allow me to work with young children as much anymore. However, a lot of young children have been impacted by divorce rates. Since the pandemic, a lot of families have been split up. And so the children are having a rough time adapting to not being in a household with both parents anymore. Right. So that's one thing that stands out. Also, the teenagers are struggling with, I'm at home by myself a lot of the day for those who are still virtual. And then those who are going back into the school, some of them are concerned and worried. You'll see maybe a drop in grades? That's one of the biggest signs, right, that something's happening with your child. If your child was previously like an A student, and they're doing wonderful, and you see like a change in their grades, or you see them not being interested in things as much as they were used to. Say they like Roblox and they would play Roblox all the time with their friends and communicate with their friends, and now you don't see them engaging with others as much. That's another, I won't say red flag, but that's another area to watch for. If you try to get them engaged with the family and come downstairs and do this with us, and they're like, no, I want to stay to myself, area of concern. Again, changes in weight and eating. They may be overeating, they may be under eating. We want to be watchful of that as well.
Do you see Sister Irving? I know the holidays is a big time depression. Do you see another big time around Valentine's Day when people feel as if I don't have a Valentine, then my life is falling apart? Do you see that during that as well? That time?
I haven't seen it yet. I will say I have also been pretty full, so I'm not accepting new clients right now, because my schedule is so full. And I know Sister Crosby, I think I said
Mm-hmm.
Crosby, she spoke to that last week. Our schedules have been full, so I haven't been able to take clients. I have about 3 to 4 weeks before my clients can get like another session sometimes, and so that's a disservice to our clients when we can't see them as frequently. So since the new year, there has been a surge. I can't say how much of that is related to Valentine's Day, but I do imagine that I will have some emergency session requests within the next few days around people feeling lonely, unworthy because they don't have a partner. I will say that our society is changing the narrative around Valentine's Day. You have Galentine's Day, encouraging women to celebrate their girlfriends. You have people celebrating singleness and that it's okay to be single. It's okay to be thriving in your life and not have a partner, and that's okay. So the narrative is changing a bit around that, which I think helps people to feel a little more comfort during this time.
Okay, we've got Sister Krosky. Could you share with the group that therapists will not feel bad or uncomfortable if someone we know calls them and requests a referral to another therapist? Some individuals feel uncomfortable seeing someone they know.
Yes. Just ask for the referral. It's not, we don't take it personal. We know that we will not be a good fit for every client and that every client will not be a good fit for us. Also, it's to your benefit sometimes for you to see another therapist, somebody that you don't know, so that you feel safe and secure with like, my information, my experiences are private, and Sister so-and-so is not going to know my business. Right. I'm really big on referring people that I know out to others. Imagine if you wanted to share something with me, but I know your family and I know your sister, and you're like, I don't know if I want to tell you this because the story that you know may differ from my story. And now you're treating me based on the story you already heard, as opposed to the story that I'm sharing with you. And so that is a setback for you, because then your voice is dismissed. So find a neutral person, somebody that you don't know, and it's okay for us to get a referral. I will not be offended. I don't think any therapist will be offended, because we expect for you to have comfort. It's not about us, it's about you. So what do you need? And honor that.
Yeah. And as I said, I'm a crisis counselor. I can get you through the crisis, but I'm not the person to see every week. And the first thing I say, whatever you tell me, number one, it's not going to shock me. There's nothing you're going to say to me that's going to make me fall out of my chair. I've heard it all.
Say that.
The second thing I'm going to say is, whatever you share is between you and I. You won't hear it in the sermon. You won't hear me say anything to family members or friends. And even Red Maria will testify. I talk to people all the time. And she don't know nothing about it. Like, it ain't none of your business, And the same thing with her, the people she shares with, I don't, unless they give her permission to share that with me. And I, insert myself from a pastoral standpoint of trying to help find services or get them to therapists. We got one from your godfather, Sister Ashley.
You got a question? Okay.
The way the
He
world
always
is,
has wonderful questions.
he
I
has great
love it when
questions.
Brother Jimmy asks a
Always.
question.
The way the world is today, if you don't like being around people, are you depressed?
So that's a good question.
Told you
See?
he always had great
See?
questions. I told you. He on it always.
Always.
Because everybody is different, right? I could be a person that thrive off of human interaction. I could love talking to people and being around people, right? Just because you are not like me doesn't mean that you are depressed, right? The question is, do you desire to be around other people, but you don't go around other people, right? And are you experiencing sadness because you're not around other people? Just because you are alone doesn't mean you are lonely. Some people are in social withdrawal away from others, but they want to be connected with others. They miss being connected with others. They have a mistrust in people. So then they keep themselves in isolation because others can't be trusted.
Yeah, I kind of talked about that in the sermon today,
Mm-hmm.
particularly that, and those who have not seen that documentary on Netflix about social dilemma. I mean, it just blew my mind, all of the stuff and the algorithms and all of these things, and that there are some times that we need people in our lives. We have to, going through certain things, we need physical presence. If we can't have physical presence, some kind of virtual presence, to help us get through that piece. And then, I'll never forget Red Maria often shares when her mother passed, her aunt would just call her, hey, just want to check on you. Are you getting out of bed today? Are you, brushing your teeth?
Comb
Make
your
sure,
hair.
yeah, you comb your hair. Make sure you don't have yuck mouth because you don't brush. And you like, you like. So
I worked at home. I worked remotely before a lot of people worked remotely. So and that was 1996 when my mother passed, and I was working from home, just me and my cat. So that was very important to have someone checking for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we were talking, we realized that every Thursday I was having a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out as we talked it through, the funeral was on the Thursday because
Mm-hmm.
unlike other the way it is in the South, in the North, my mother passed in Ohio, and the funeral, she passed on a Sunday. The funeral was Thursday. We didn't wait till Saturday.
No. We gotta wait for the family to come from Georgia.
The
People got
family
here
was
taking off
pretty
from their
much
job.
already.
People
All the
got to take
family
off from
was
their
there
job.
already, and my family's like, "This is when it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you." So
Mm-hmm.
we went ahead. We had the funeral, and so on Thursdays, I would feel extra sad, and I couldn't figure out why. And we isolated it to the fact that the funeral had been on a Thursday. So
Yeah.
I started being intentional about doing things so I wouldn't be alone and wouldn't be sitting working at home alone, then spending the evening at home alone, especially on a Thursday. So
Yeah.
Am I right?
That's
So,
good.
sister, go ahead, Ashley. I'm sorry.
That's good, Reverend Maria. And thank you for your transparency and sharing that with us. I do usually recommend a mood tracker to my clients, right? It's free. It's called Vibrant. That's my favorite one. Vibrant Mood Tracker. It's in the app. It's a little orangish icon. You can put in your mood a couple times a day, a couple days a week, and see if you can identify some patterns. They will tell you the percentage of time 50% of the time you are nervous, right? Why are we spending so much time being nervous? Or 30% of the time you are sad and angry. So track your mood if you're
Give us
concerned.
that again, Ashley, so they can put it in the chat. And we
It's
want to say it
Vibrant.
again so the people way in the back can hear all of it.
Vibrant Mood Tracker. If you're concerned about like your mood changing a lot, or like, should I be in therapy, or what to do about it, Vibrant Mood Tracker. It's free. You can download it, track your.
Say that again. Say that again now. That last
Vibrant
part.
Mood Tracker.
No, the part after that.
Oh, I don't know. I said a lot. It's free. It's free.
Oh yeah. Free.
It's free. It's free.
Free. Y'all heard that? Vibrant Mood Tracker is free.
Yeah.
There's
Don't give you
something
graphs.
else. Before we leave, Pastor, I want to give that number that Servant Krosky shared with us last time that we didn't get up on last week's sermon chat about the 24/7 number you can call.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of there being new resources, apps or otherwise, that can be a blessing to help in this area. Is there anything else, app or otherwise, that you want to mention that we might want to know about?
Yes, my favorite. This one is not necessarily catered to men, so to speak, but men can use.
Mm, mm,
I'm sorry, y'all.
mm.
But there is a podcast called The Daily Shine. They also have an app. It was created by a Black woman and a Japanese woman, and it gives you daily meditations. Okay, they're all less than 10 minutes. They give you a word. And they walk you through a meditation. So it may be like 1% change is change, right? Celebrate your accomplishments of today. And so they kind of help you develop a more positive mindset, a more growth mindset around things so that you can, combat or defeat the depression and live more in the here and now. One thing I want to add real quick, because Pastor did ask for signs and things to look up for parents and with their children. This is helpful for everybody. We talked about suicide. I know you guys talked a little bit about suicide last week, but I want to bring out the components. So we have suicidal thoughts, right? Just the mere thought of like, I don't want to be here anymore, or this is too much. Those could be seen as passive suicidal thoughts. So when you hear people ask those questions, ask them, what do you mean by that? Okay. The method is the other thing. Do they have ways in which they would want to end their lives? Okay. So we know different ways, from pills, over-the-counter medicine, sharp objects. Sometimes it gets more intense, like cords and ropes. Okay. The other thing is plan. Do they have a plan to end their life? And then the last thing we'll look for is intent. Does this person have the intent of actually carrying out their plan? Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Ashley,
Pastor.
we've got a question from Pastor Hudson, all the way from Quincy, Florida.
Okay.
And
Amen.
your parents said they so proud of you, Natasha and Al Irving, where you get
Hey,
your name from. Where you get your name from, so they want you to know that they proud of their baby girl. All right, Pastor Hudson says, can you speak to compassion fatigue for those in caregiver roles? How it impacts and may not be recognized. That's a
yeah.
great question.
It is a great question. As we were talking and I heard you say you hear all the things, I thought about you. I was like, dang, where does Pastor get his relief? If he doesn't get to talk about it with his wife, what does he do with all the stuff? And so when I'm finished, I would like for you to help us to see how you care for you as well. You can experience compassion fatigue, even this role. So how is it impact you? For someone who's like trained professionally, they kind of teach us to detach a little bit, right? So you hear the stuff, but you recognize it's not yours to carry, right? So I can talk with you and engage with you and help you to grow. But when I'm finished working, I've learned to kind of turn it off and separate a little bit. Like, I'm pray about it. God help my clients to get through this thing, but I can turn it off, right? Taking care of yourself is a big part to combat compassion fatigue. Making sure you're eating healthy, you're working out, you're doing the prayers and the sermons, and even doing your own therapy if that's what it takes. But the symptoms will be the same. We talked earlier about how Black and brown people are going through the motions because it's what we've been taught to do. You have to push through. There is no ability to just give up. You still have to go to work and provide. So we continue to go through the things, but you may feel yourself wanting to cry, right? You may feel yourself feeling down or sad. Where's the joy? A lot of times it'll be people around you who'll see something and be like, are you okay? Right? Take time to be in tune with yourself and just reflect enough to say, how am I doing? I'm doing this for this person. I'm doing this for that person. But what about me?
Yeah, yeah, those are great
Okay.
things.
So
I've
I would do a
been.
check.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
all great things. We have some members who are caring for sick family members now, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'll check on them. But I think those are great things that you suggested there, Sister Irvin, as well. What do I do for 13 years, next Monday, I'll go to this retreat with pastors in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll have different speakers, but one person who probably really every black pastor in America probably need to send him a love offering is a pastor named Howard John Wesley, who pastors a church called Alpha Street Baptist Church, who really talked about sabbatical and preached a sermon series called Selah. Selah is a Hebrew word for rest, where he took 6 months off. And it really probably, I took a sabbatical for a month. And I think one of the things that I'm grateful that Rev Maria and I had the opportunity to, the church affords us some time and some space to just to go away. And we do it individually. So I'll go for 3 or 4 days. Rev Maria go for 3 or 4 days. So for us, water speaks to us. So it's our time. No kids. The kids won't be calling. I don't call. If something crash and burn, she'll deal with it when she gets back, or I deal with it when I get back. So I think those are two things that we do. That the church affords us that opportunity for rest. I think a rested pastor is the best pastor. So I think those things. I have a coach, Ashley. That is my ministry coach for the last 10 years. I've known him for 25 years. And so he's / coach and therapist. We talk on a weekly basis, and once a quarter, I'm going to fly to DC where he is.
Nice.
And he will make me cry, chastise me, and shout in the same session. So those are the things that I do. I've kind of fallen off the wagon on Peloton lately. I'm not running or not doing any exercise. And Rev Maria's been cranking it up, and I don't shrunk back. And so I think those are the things that I do. Having a core group of friends who you can be. I went to Atlanta last week for our seminary Founders Day, so it's kind of like homecoming for graduate school. And two of my brothers, one of them, I was in his, matter of fact, I introduced him to his wife. His wife introduced me to Rev Maria. And we were in each other's wedding. So we went out to dinner twice. And I posted a picture that it was good to have true friends, not church friends. There is a difference. I know all of their stuff. They know all my stuff. And I think one of the things that I found out is that being a pastor is probably one of the loneliest jobs. And if you don't have any friends to share, you can operate in isolation a lot. So those are some of the things that I do. Rev Maria, I don't know if you want to talk about what you do.
Yeah, we both practice spiritual disciplines. We are on those prayer calls, not just because it's our duty to be on them, but we're on them because we are praying for and interceding. We're doing Bible studies, we do small groups. But for my own individual mental health and development, I walk in the morning, and almost 2 years ago, I started to try to jog again. I fell, fractured my wrist and my elbow, but I feel like I'm working back up to jogging again soon. Y'all pray for me. And I have engaged a therapist from time to time, and I am now working with a spiritual director, which is something that I want to eventually move into. But in order for me to be a spiritual director, and I think I've been doing it, I won't say bootleg, but as part of the work that I do of ministry, I've been doing that a little bit since I started in ministry. But to get the credential, you have to actually have been in spiritual direction for at least a year. And so I found a spiritual director. He actually lives in Chicago, but we do virtual sessions. And I'm not sure how many months I'm in now. It has to be at least 6 to 8 months, right, Pastor? And that's a true blessing to my soul, because it's almost like coach, therapist, and spiritual godly wisdom, I'll say, all kind of rolled up into one. So I definitely do that. Periodically, again, I get to go away, just me. That's pretty much it. And one of the things I have to say, not only do we not share with each other things that people tell us, and people don't always tell us things in a strictly, oh, I'm having a session with you now. Sometimes people just come and tell us things. And so that whole idea of the isolation that you feel in ministry, I have found there are layers of isolation, because being in the ministerial family, people expect you to act some way, and you can't be the way we can't be who we are with our friends, with everybody we know in the church and all that. So it helps to have times to steal away with the Lord, to steal away and have times of solitude. Spiritual disciplines are very real. I heard Pastor talk about beginning fasting on Wednesdays. I periodically will fast. So all of those things are part of what we do. And I think we can and should be doing more, frankly.
Yeah. What I heard everybody say is that they get help. And so, Brother Bernard, I want to encourage those who are experiencing fatigue or remotely think they might be experiencing fatigue, especially in a caregiver role, to get help. That could be therapy. That could be getting a caregiver to come and relieve you one day to do whatever needs to be done. There's various types of help. And it's not only individual therapy. You got group therapy, you got coaching, there's support groups, right? So find what works for you and use it.
I am literally, Sister Irving, working with a family right now who has caregiver fatigue. And it's simple things like, okay, let's access what other social services are out there for home health care or even hospice care. And what people have to understand, hospice does not mean death. Hospice care means that you can have services in the house that you would not have in the house if you're not under hospice care.
Right.
And so it just means long-term care. So trying to work with them through that, trying to work with them, hey, maybe if you can afford it, do meal prep or get someone to do meal preps for you, to do those kind of things. Because if you're the primary caregiver for a sick family member, I've seen it too often that that person sometimes passes before the person who's sick, or becomes so completely burned out that they're angry with the sick person, and they take on all of the stuff. So so I'm working with a family right now, helping them to navigate those things and say, hey, you can't do this alone, and you can't. And one of the points I made in the sermon today, you can't do this by yourself. You got to find some help. All right, we've had a great time. We've gone way into overtime. I want to thank Sister Irving. She's gonna go to cook some omelets now for her and the family. And she's gonna call her mama and her sister and tell them, and her godmama and her godfather, and say, hey, everybody in the MIA, and her auntie and all them cousins and Pookie and them, all them nicknames for the whole family. Because I went to meet with the family one time, and I was finding out all kind of nicknames. My head was mesmerized. I was like, "What? What's your nickname? Cha Cha." So let me thank
Don't
you,
let him know,
Ashley.
because he will call it out. He'll call it
Let me
out. Don't
thank
let
you,
him know.
Ashley. Let me thank the tech team. We're going to be back after the 10 a.m. service with another licensed therapist who happens to be a high school teacher. So she is seeing a whole lot of stuff that is grateful that has. And I think and Ashley, you have a therapist. I think it's
Oh, I
good
do.
therapists have a
Yes.
therapist.
Yes. Recently switched one because it had been a couple years and it was just time to switch it up. So don't be afraid to switch therapists either. Sometimes the road just come to an end. Get another one.
Right. Like we were talking. Never mind. I was about to go on a tangent. You can switch hairstylists too, but that's
My Lord, listen.
conversation.
We got 3 barbers. Whoever got an opening, the kids and I going. It ain't personal. It's business.
That's right.
And so I want to thank you all. I want to thank the tech team. I pray that you were blessed by this sermon chat. I pray that you'll stick around, come after the worship experience at 10 o'clock. And for those who, you can go back and watch this later. That's the great thing about technology, is you can be up 3 o'clock in the morning, and here's her number. And she can refer you to some people in Florida, because based on her license, she can't see people in Florida. So why didn't I put Ashley's name up? Because she's in Florida. She's in Georgia, and she can't see people in Georgia. And she talked about her calendar's full, so full, but she can refer you to some people real quick and in Florida that that can get you in straightway. All right, want to thank y'all.
Let's
Yes,
put that
ma'am.
other number up very quickly before we go. That hotline. I don't know if I want to call it.
She doesn't. I don't know if the tech
No,
team
no,
has
no,
that.
no. The tech team has it. I think the tech
Okay.
team has it. The one that Dr. Krosky gave us last time. Do you have it?
No.
Okay, if we don't
Okay.
have it, I thought I forwarded it.
We'll
Make
have
sure
it.
we
We'll
put
have
it
it
up
up by
next
the 10
time.
o'clock. We'll have it by the 10 o'clock. Thank you again, Sister Al, Tranisha, Ashley, Irving. I'm giving her whole name, and we're grateful again. Thank y'all. Everybody have a great day. God bless.
Thank you.